I thought I'd do something different. I want to share setting up the information security function at Scoutbee, how we've done that, in the hopes that it helps some of you, basically. I'm Greg Gaast. I'm the CISO at Scoutbee GmbH, which is German for company, whatever, based in Berlin. I was naughty once upon a time, the thing with the nuclear weapons facility with the feds, the thing. And last Friday night was quite special as well. Started out obviously very techie. Went into management, not very good at management, just skipped that, went straight to leadership. Still struggling, but I'm managing. I'm a strong critic of the InfoSec status quo, which I documented, I think, extensively in my book, Rethinking InfoSec. There's a shameless plug here. It's on Amazon. I'd love to say proceeds are going to good causes, but it's mostly going to be my ex-wife. And I'm currently CISO at Scoutbee. So let me tell you something about Scoutbee, which is far more interesting than I am. Scoutbee is a SaaS-ish, because we have a lot of kind of customization and bespoke areas. Provider specializing in supplier discovery, scouting, and management, supply chain management. Our customers are behemoths. We're talking Audi, we're talking Unilever, Siemens, Bosch, General Electric, Airbus, companies with market caps of $100 billion plus. What we basically do is we help these companies find suppliers. Audi needs to deploy, I need a place that can build me these bumpers in this market, this suspension assembly. General Electric needs a turbine with tungsten, whatever, forged alloy done here. Well, you pick up the yellow pages and you just find that. We help them find that. We scour the internet, create a massive long list, filter it down, get back to them in a few weeks with maybe a dozen possibilities around the world of people that can actually produce this for them. This is normally quite a manual process that can take like 6 months. So time to market wise, price point, options to diversify your supply chain, that's our kind of thing. Our bread and butter are fast moving consumer goods, automotive, manufacturing. And I'll do this in reverse order. In terms of data, the stuff I worry about, we have PII, but we're B2B, so it's actually fairly minimal, which is funny because there's still, when I came in, still very heavy focus on GDPR, but we actually have very little. It's basically people's accounts. Intellectual property is a big one because our customers will give us their intellectual property so we can find someone to go out and build it. The other one is supply chain data, which is an interesting one that I've not come across before because it's actually all public information, but no one wants to know who you are using, or no one wants other people to find out who they're using. So it's quite sensitive. I mentioned being a strong critic of the information status quo. By that, I mean this. Can you read it? Does your dog bite? No, but it can hurt you in other ways. You spent $1 million on cybersecurity tools just to protect an attack surface you could have fixed for free. It's a problem. And I think part of it stems because of this. We have on the left upper side doing things right, and on the right, just buy a bunch of security tools. What have people been selling us today? Architectural standards, good build processes, quality? No. And we have been doing this for as long as I've been in security. It doesn't work. I once showed someone a chart, and I told them it was 2 lines going straight up. And I told them it was the US gun ownership rate in the US and the US murder rate. And everyone laughed. They stupid Americans, obviously. And then another chart that showed 1 line going up and 1 line going down. And I said, well, this is the investment in cybersecurity and the reduction in breaches, or the effect on breaches. And everyone agreed, yeah, that's why we do our jobs. And then I told them I switched the charts. That's how ineffective cybersecurity is. And not a lot of people mug people with guns, apparently. What was my next slide? I had a couple of Guinnesses as I threw this together. Bear with me. So the starting point. I started in September. We're going to create a security function. What was our ground zero? We had no security team, no security department, no function. We actually had ISO certification, a bit of a tick box exercise, but we had a few internal champions who got some things together and got us ISO certified. And basically, yeah, a few good eggs, a few champions internally keeping things together. So what are we actually going to do? So the first thing I want to do is I didn't want to make it a security function. I want to make it a quality first function. I wanted us to build things properly so we don't have that attack surface in the first place. How do we build systems? How do we maintain them? How do we architect stuff? What are our standards? How do we do code? What issues do we have? How do we train for that? Let's fix as much of that kind of ground level stuff as possible. And then we can start doing the security stuff that the folks have been selling us today. And when we find stuff, instead of just doing what Elmo does, when we do find stuff, don't just fix it, but take that as an input to the quality function and keep improving continuously. I don't want us to be an IT function. We are not an IT function. Our department reports directly to the co-CEO because we want to help everyone. It's not just an IT thing. We want to help sales, we want to help marketing, we want to help product, absolutely everything we can do. And we want to commercialize it, which is a bit unusual because most internal security department, if you're not a security product vendor, you don't commercialize your security. But we wanted to do that, and we wanted to do a couple of ways. A, cutting cost, security reviews, speed up, huge customers, a lot of red tape to get the deal through. Part of that is security, speed that up. But also, if we can outcompete, if we can make security a point of interest, we rarely get security as a request on tenders. Oh yeah, you have ISO, great. But if we can actually show that we are willing to go far deeper than you're doing a tender, they tend to go back to the other companies like, what are you guys doing about security? Because these guys have a plan, and we haven't seen that from you guys. And then they start realizing, we actually care about security. And then they start thinking twice about using that other company. Line at the bottom. Best kept secret in the world in security. No one cares about risk. In a business context, IT security risk, no one cares. It is the worst possible approach to sell something or to get buy-in and traction imaginable. If your 12-year-old daughter tells you she wants to go see the Foo Fighters by herself, and you tell her no, well, she's going to go see the Foo Fighters by herself. She doesn't care, and you're the bad guy. If instead you nurture a relationship with your 12-year-old daughter, you see her interest, you spend time with them, you see their potential, you help them grow in that, you build a very strong relationship, helping them do all the things they want to do, the question becomes, Daddy, will you come to the Foo Fighter contest with me? And you go. And the whole time you are protecting them. You are protecting them from risk. But it never comes up in conversation, and they're never even aware of it. It's a much better way of doing it. So I decided to do this in 5 streams, because there's a wide variety of things I want to do. You guys may miss some of your coffee break, by the way. I haven't timed this at all. Infrastructure and process. How do we build our infrastructure? Not our security tools. How do we build our systems? What's our AWS like? How do we build EC2s? How do we provision? How do we do access controls? How do we actually build the stuff that supports everything? That's far more important to me than having to monitor all the gaps in an attack surface with security tools. Only once we've done that do we start doing security operations. That's when we start doing vulnerability scanning, SASE, all that stuff. And when we find stuff, we loop it back into the actual process. It's not like, oh, we found an issue, we fixed that one issue. It's no, why did this issue occur? Address that process so it doesn't occur anymore. Otherwise, it's this endless test, fix, retest, test, fix, retest, test, fix, retest cycle that pen test companies love, but doesn't really help you. Sorry, Sakarman, guys. Culture and awareness. Phishing is so like 1998. Come on, people. I wanted to go a lot further with this, and we have actually hired the co-founder of the HFAX cyber framework. Now, HFAX is Human Factors Analysis and Classification System. It's what they use when an airliner crashes. The answer is never the pilot screwed up. It's the pilot was tired because of a company policy, and he heard this alarm, and the sound sounded like the buzzer from the toilet door, so he didn't pay attention to it, and then there was a software glitch because of this quality process at the manufacturer, and how all these things tie together. Taking it much, much further, so we employ psychology, not just to scare people, but to get people to participate. We just launched our awareness program, and I was amazed, because in 7 days, we got 70% of the company to enroll in their own initiative, which I was expecting 10. And we also use it for process engineering. We make sure that we know what our people are like. We've actually gone and interviewed like 1/3 of the company personally. We know what they're like, we know what their attitudes are, we know what their skill sets are. We actually use it in process engineering to make processes where they're less likely to make mistakes. The next step is governance, compliance, and planning. I hate third-party compliance. I don't do the ISO, NIST, Cyber Essentials, SOC 2. any of that. We build according to what we need. We go through every department, every role, what they actually do, what systems they use, what's the data flow, what's in there, figure out how it all fits together, and then we figure out what do we need to do to keep all this safe. Then we create a framework, I'll get to that. So for me, compliance is compliance to that, to our bespoke framework of what we need to do, which we then map to other framework requirements. Governance, compliance, and planning. How many security operations do you know, or security departments do you know that have every single security task that they need to do on a schedule, followed religiously? I've never seen one. The last one is commercial and marketing. So we have the contractual compliance of what are we supposed to do with all the kind of terms and conditions in our contracts, because we are technically a SaaS provider, but when a $100 billion company says, we don't like your T&Cs, use ours, you kind of say, yes, please. So we have to track all of those. So that's part of the security, like to make sure that we go through every single contract and we see what we have to deliver. And we're trying to like homogenize that a bit, cut the time needed for respond, but also market it. Like we take this seriously. For us, it's like a brand value. It's becoming a brand value, and we want to commercialize it. We want people to know that we are really going the extra mile and then some. It's a very slow switch, isn't it? Where's the rest of the slide? There it is. That wasn't on my computer. So first thing, I get this general idea in this crazy head of mine, and we start creating a team. Now, bespoke roles, we have some weird titles here that most people have never seen. I've got an information security commercial officer. I've got a product and infrastructure security head, a human factors and performance, because the psychology we use in security awareness is also used to change organizational culture and drive actual performance of employees, not just security staff. A security program and quality manager, because I got such a focus on quality. All the organization, all the compliance, all the creating the documentation framework, the automation, the workflows, that's what they do. And we have an analyst who's basically the world's best gopher at sniffing stuff out. So we have all these bespoke roles. And the way I approach this is I have an idea of what needs to be done as a team. I don't care about traditional definitions of roles. These are the things I need to do. Let me find half a dozen people who together can do this. And during this process, they were like, okay, well, you're really good at this, but you're missing that piece. But you're good at these 3 other pieces. That's a bonus. So I'm just going to find someone else to fit this piece. And this is how we kind of came to this team. Experience is an interesting one, because I think this is probably the most senior, old, team I've ever had. But the actual amount of security industry, like specific security industry knowledge, between all 6 of them, I'm going to say is less than 10 years. Combined. It's very little. He was an ex-policeman, turned compliance guy. He was a former military avionics guy, former air stewardess turned business owner, actual IT architect. Have to get one IT guy in there. Teacher, sales guy. Really hated sales. Took a massive pay cut. But they're all extremely driven. By the way, like so driven, I shit you not, this guy, he's been working for us for 3 months. Officially, he started on the payroll this month. He's been working for free for 3 months, because that's how excited he was. This team, they're all over the place. They sent me a picture of themselves a month before their start date together. They'd already all bonded as a team. And to me, that was about finding that right fit. And very easy to find. 4 of these people left their current job to come work for a startup. And they're just phenomenal. And like diversity, I didn't look at diversity. The argument we have for diversity is that you need different walks of life. You need women, men, races, all this stuff, because they give you different perspectives. I figured out what I want to do. I did it backwards. I found out what I want to do, and I found the best people to do those pieces. And they naturally came from those diverse backgrounds, as opposed to forcing someone just because of a tick box on a diversity spreadsheet to then do something that they're maybe not the best for. I've got genders, races. I've got 6 different nationalities and 7 people. Didn't look at it. I hate diversity. It's stupid. It makes us look at people as tick boxes. Look at them as human beings. They're all super high performing. They like solving problems. We have this idea that, oh, your company brand has to be great and you need like the beanbags and all this stuff. I told them, like, we've got issues. We've got to build this from scratch. It's going to be some heavy lifting, and it's a whole new thing. We're going to have to get buy-in. It's going to be a big challenge. And they're super high performing because they wanted that challenge. You attract the right people that way. And the hiring process was literally 2 LinkedIn posts. Didn't go through HR, didn't hire a recruiter. 2 LinkedIn posts, other people found out I was hiring. That was it. I can't remember what any of their resumes looked like, and I think there were like 2 or 3 interviews. This guy showed up with his wife. Bought her coffee too. Very informal. And I interview, like, one of the things I find missing, I'll go back, from job descriptions. Do you know what's missing from most job descriptions? Description of the job. It's true. Oh, I want X years and this certification and skill. What do you actually want the person to do? Colin, I'd like you to build this framework and this and organize it so that we can put all the documentation and map workflows and then create automatic scheduling and then we need to like ad hoc pick up compliance standards. Yeah, I can do that. Sweet. Start Monday. So how did we organize all this work? I was expecting to be on the other side, to be honest. Create a framework with the 10 layers. Ignore all this for now. The colorful bit is you're not supposed to be able to read it, so I created this framework and I broke it down into these 10 layers. Now, it's not like an ISO model, so they don't necessarily sit one on top of the other. The executive is buy-in. Do I have approval from the exec, C-level, the board? This is the security function. This is our mission. I want traction in this. I want access to all IT tooling. I need to be part of all projects. I need to be part of change. I need to be part of procurement, blah, 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 blah. You commit to all this stuff, great. And each of these layers has one or more subcomponents to it, which is what all the little boxes are. I just want to illustrate that. Program overview is the big picture. This is how it all fits together. This is our mission. This is our team structure. These are the components in this framework. Legal and HR. Data protection policy, HR policy, HR integration for JML, that kind of stuff. Disciplinary process. If I'm going to have an acceptable use policy, which is also in there, I need a disciplinary process for it. Compliance, and that's where I map. We do all this stuff, and this is how it maps to ISO. This is how it maps to Cyber Essentials. This is how it maps to SOC 2. Product security, we have products. So we want to document every single one of our products, how it's built, the entire architecture, A to Z, data flows, all the security features in them. One really detailed internal version, one less detailed external version that we can show our clients to give them that assurance. Then we have SaaS security. We use dozens and dozens of SaaS solutions. So we set up a configuration guide for what should Salesforce look like? What should Google Workspace look like? What should Atlassian look like? What are our standards for this? How do we configure that? How do we include that? How many companies are actually doing that where the security department knows what every department is using in terms of SaaS solutions and productivity solutions and looking at that? And if you don't secure your Salesforce, that's a pretty big area of exposure. The next one is operational IT security. All the common stuff. How do we do asset management? How do we do provisioning? How do we procure solutions? How do we provision users? What's our JML process? How do we update? How do we patch? What are our architectural standards? What are our network security standards? How do we update topologies? All that IT stuff, we define it. We define absolutely every operational activity that IT will do. And then we get to the SecOps stuff, the stuff that we've been selling us today, our vulnerability management, our application security, how we feed the results from that into training as well. Human factors, I've actually missed the layer on the colorful one, but that's our awareness campaign. Phishing is actually part of corporate IT. We don't actually do that in security. But the whole cultural change. This is a company the people have never really been exposed to security before, so we're bringing all that in, talking to everyone, getting them on board. We did like a full-on psychological analysis of a dozen different cyber awareness tools to see which one would actually be able to best give us the psychology and the baseline and be able to measure our progress in terms of psychological traction with people. And then there's the commercial side. So it's everything from optimizing the contractual process, but it's also making, it's really warm now, by the way. It's also about bringing commercial value to this. So now every time I answer a questionnaire, I've got an 8-9 page annex or appendix about everything we do security-wise. And we actually, we put the customer's logo in it, and we put a paragraph of their industry and the specific risks of their industry to really speak to them. Stuff on the website, but basically commercialize it. Blog posts, make it a differentiator. And I'll go back. And this is basically our data security stack that we're working towards. And it's everything from hardening AWS configurations, network segmentation, hardening the host, architectural security standards for everything that we develop in-house, the actual data architecture. So not just the systems, but the data flows and how that's contained and mapped and how data feeds into each other, because we have mental amounts of data sets. Multiple, SAS, DAST, SCA, IAST, all the application security, like human factors testing of the user interfaces to reduce the liability of human error while using our application. And then we get the role-based access control tightly integrated into job roles. So we work with HR. What does this person need to do? What do they need access to? Automatically provisioned. Bam. And then we have the web application firewalls, the real-time monitoring, the EDR, blah, blah, blah. But to be able to get that, you really need integration to every freaking department. The benefits. It actually costs less money. Our security budget, tool-wise, is really, really small. I think staff, we benchmark this, and staff-wise, I'm about 20% below, and tool-wise, about 70% lower than our benchmark, the company we benchmarked it against. You actually get higher traction because you're speaking to much more business-relevant elements rather than just security. And, ooh, risk is scary, ransomware. And you actually get greater assurance. You get better protection. This is the impact of a cyber attack when you've actually eliminated your attack surface. Nothing happens. If you've updated everything, if you know all your assets, if they're all up to date, hardened, secured, baseline configured, and monitored, and you have full awareness, nothing happens. That's what seems to be escaping people. Obviously, business improvements, IT improvements. We know what's going on in IT. We have higher agility, higher flexibility. We introduce architectural standards. We have much more elegant ways of doing things, and we make sure that everything's maintainable and manageable. Because we're so engaged everywhere, we have a high level of awareness of what's going on in the business, what matters to the business. We know how to prioritize, but we also build those relationships and get more appreciated by the business. And by doing so, by talking to people, we also get high staff engagement, which is why I think we've had such a phenomenal success. Like, it's unheard of to have 70% of your staff sign up willingly for your user awareness training. And then we have that commercial contribution. We help content intenders, RFIs on the web, and it becomes a competitive differentiator. And the analogy I use for this is, I'm a big car buff, but if you have a beautiful classic car and you need to take it to get serviced, you take it to a garage, they pull it in the back, 5 hours later you see it, it's still running, they tell you they did a bunch of stuff to it, and you believe them because they told you, because they tick the box, yeah, we changed the oil, we changed the filter, this, that, that. That's about the level of visibility you get from your average security questionnaire. One day, I need to get my car serviced again. The garage is closed, so I take it to a different garage. And this garage is quite nice. It's very clean. It's very organized. Behind reception, there's a big glass pane, and I can see everyone working in nice, clean uniforms with white gloves, and I can see they're putting towels on the engine bay not to scratch it. If I have a question, I'm invited in the back, and they will show me exactly. They will allow me to work. I can see that these people are taking care of the thing I care about. Which garage am I going to take my car to next time? The second one. What if it's 10% more expensive? 20% more expensive? Chances are you're still going to go to garage number 2. And that's the commercial value of having real security. We keep going for the tick box approach because, oh, it's cheaper, we just cut corners because it's cheap. But if you actually do it for real, you get business benefits, and you can basically outshine everybody else commercially and turn it into a commercial differentiator. It got very quiet. Can you guys relate to what I'm saying? Have you heard this kind of talk before? Substantially fewer nods. Security and risk isn't where the traction is. If you want to do it, you need to be more business relevant. Get out of the security bubble, propose value, engage, come up with something that works for the business, not just from the risk equation, because I don't do risk management because I don't know how to calculate it. It's completely, you're sending numbers at me. What was it? No, sorry. And my question is, one point of frustration, so one tip I want to give people is, yeah, but I report to the head of IT. I'm here, I don't have that, my company doesn't care, I'm stuck, I can't do anything from where I am. There's a very easy way to approach doing this if you really want to do it. You. Yeah, you. What's your name? John? John, do you have something in your hand, John? Or? Oh, sorry, you, John. I meant him. But I'll do you. Not like that. I like your sweater, John. Can I buy you a cup of coffee after this? I want to tell you something. Yeah, easy. No one's ever said no. Engage the right person. If you have a value proposition, someone will buy it. That fell a bit flat, but thank you very much.
Good stuff. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for that.
Do I bugger off now?
Well, you've got to clean up your mess first. I was just going to ask quickly before you go, if you wouldn't mind. Obviously, you're starting with a bit of a blank slate, which potentially makes things a bit easier. Do you think? I mean, because there are going to be people who are thinking this is great. If I could start from a blank slate, I'll probably do similar or same things. But for people who are in, very big entrenched bureaucratic organisations, have you got any tips to try and do this sort of thing?
My last job was the University of Salford.
Right. Okay.
It's going to be slower.
Right.
But it's the same principles apply. It's going to be a lot slower. You will be moving a mountain, so you will be moving inches at a time. Right. But realize that you have moved a mountain an inch, and don't get too frustrated with it.
Yeah, interesting.
But it's same principles. Reach out, have a plan, make it relevant to the business.
Interesting. Great stuff. Thanks, Greg. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Thank
Cheers.
you.